guys, today we're going to be doing another review. Today's review is The Batman. Spoiler warning, if you have not seen Batman, if you haven't, watch another video on my channel, but you have, stay tuned. The movie opens up at Mayor Don Mitchell's house, where the Riddler, played by Paul Dano, kills his first victim. The movie then transitions into Batman trying to solve all the clues and riddles that the Riddler has left him. He is then led toward the Iceberg Lounge that is run by Carmine Falcone and the Penguin. At the lounge, Batman sees Selina Kyle for the first time. The Riddler now kills the second victim, Police Commissioner Peter Savage, and Batman now agrees to help Selina find her missing friend. And this is the point where we learn that she is Carmine Falcone's daughter. The Riddler then kidnaps the DA and makes him drive a car through the Commissioner's funeral. This sets Batman down a path of clues that will make him realize that his father wasn't the man he thought he was. Batman then finds out that the Riddler's next target was him, Bruce Wayne, and the Riddler actually sends a bomb to Wayne Tower. This bomb is set off when Alfred opens up the package, and he is put in the hospital. Batman now knows that Carmine Falcone is the one who killed his father, and Batman goes after him. Instead of killing Carmine Falcone, he turns him into the police, only to get shot by the Riddler. The Riddler does get caught and requests Batman's presence at Arkham Asylum. At Arkham, the Riddler reveals his plan to flood Gotham, and Batman has to save as many lives as he can. At this point, Batman heads over to Gotham Square Gardens and fights fake Riddlers. At the end, Batman and Selina go their separate ways, and Batman realizes that he needs to be more than someone who needs to be feared. He needs to be a hero. The cast was amazing during this movie. I personally think that Robert Pattinson is the best Batman in any Batman film. His performance was phenomenal, and his chemistry with Zoe Kravitz was great as well. Zoe Kravitz played the great semi-emotionally fragile side character in the story. She really embodied what Catwoman should be like in a movie version. This has to be the biggest surprise of the film. Going into the movie, I had no idea who Paul Dano was, but I was thoroughly impressed with his acting abilities. I got severe Heath Ledger Joker vibes at times, and that is always a win. Jeffrey Wright wasn't featured as much in this movie, but when he was, he made the most of his opportunities. He's probably one of the best Commissioner Gordons that we've had in the movies. It's still hard to believe that this guy and this guy are the same person. Farrell did a very good job as the comic relief character of the film, and even at times he had his own moments of great acting abilities. Serkis did very well as the father figure of Robert Pattinson. They both played very well off each other. And then the scene where he is in the hospital is a very touching scene, and they both acted perfectly. So one of my likes is the Batman versus Riddler talk at the asylum. I love the acting in that scene, both from Paul Dano and Robert Pattinson. Paul Dano acted like a deranged, crazy villain who only seeked Batman's approval, and when he didn't, he lost it. But Robert Pattinson acted very well in it as well. That's what Batman should be like. Both first scenes of the movie, they really set the tone. Just how the Riddler pops out of nowhere, it's a literal scene of horror. It's crazy. And the scene where Batman pops out of nowhere with three shadows, that was perfectly executed. I love how this movie features the detective side of Batman. He isn't just punchy. It shows the more intellectual side of Batman. Another thing I liked was the evolution of Batman. With every conflict he involves, first he wants to be feared, then respected, but eventually he understands that he is a hero, and in the eyes of the public, he needs to save them. The fight scenes in this movie were amazing. That was one critic of mine of The Dark Knight. That was like, the fight scenes were a little too slow, but Reeves made the fight scenes enjoyable. The best thing of the movie, in my opinion, was the contrast between the darkness and the light. The whole movie theater was dark for most of the movie, but there were subtle glimpses of light that appeared, and that happened a lot throughout the movie. I also like how they kept the Wayne murders still unknown. I don't know if they'll ever explore that again, just because they've done it so many times, but if they ever do want to explore it more, they left the door open for that. The score of the movie was probably the second best part. It was fantastic. I don't think they could have scored it any better. Just one of the side effects of the Batman is listening to the soundtrack. It's crazy. I also loved how you could tell that these were the early days of Batman. You could tell that he wasn't as feared or respected as other Batmans were. You can also tell that the Batman wasn't the world's greatest detective yet. He messed up on a lot of things. Things like his Spanish, El Rata, El Lata, and he even let Gotham get flooded. Gotham was probably the best Gotham that we've seen in the movies. You could tell that there were the rich parts, while also having the poor parts. The city that we saw in the movie is the perfect modernization of Gotham from the comics. Another thing I liked was the journal entries and how each of them, Batman and Riddler, they both had their own separate journals. I love how Bruce Wayne treated Batman and Gotham as an experiment throughout the movie. But throughout it, the experiment evolved and the word Batman turned into something more, a hero. The hallway scene where he walked forward fighting the bad guys reminded me so much of the Rogue One Vader scene. Dark figure, in the shadows, only lit up by gunfire. Perfection. One thing that I disliked was the Selina Kyle Batman relationship. It just felt kind of forced. I feel like the only way the relationship works in the comics is because Selina knows that Batman is Bruce Wayne. I don't know, I just felt like it was kind of rushed and put together. There were a lot of slow parts, but I understand it because this is the first movie in the trilogy and there needs to be more of a backstory. Overall, I think they could have balanced it out some between the backstory and the action, but it was still a very good movie. The Riddler goons felt weird to me. Every supervillain needs his henchmen. I get that. Just making them random dudes, I don't know. It just kind of felt out of place, especially in the last couple minutes of the movie. One of the biggest dislikes I had about the movie was there was no Bruce Wayne in it. He just got outshined by Batman, but I think if they are going to make a future, if they make a future good Batman movie, Bruce Wayne needs to be his playboy, rich, public self. I also understand that they don't want to go that Dark Knight route, but I don't know. Bruce Wayne is Bruce Wayne. So Barry Keoghan, he's not confirmed to play the Joker, but it's all but confirmed. He's credited as the unseen Arkham prisoner, but he speaks like the Joker. And at one point he says, "One day you're up, the next you're a clown." You can also see a very disfigured face that smiles in the darkness. And obviously you can't ignore that iconic Joker laugh. So what are my thoughts on Barry Keoghan's Joker? I won't know until I see him in full. The looks, they make the character. But from the small sample size, I think that Keoghan's Joker will be pretty good. Not as good as Heath Ledger's Joker, though. What's next for this film? Well, there's many directions that I think this could be taken, but I think that Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson will be back in a sequel. I think whatever the sequel is, Bruce Wayne will need to feature more in this movie. I think that since the city needs to be rebuilt, Bruce Wayne will come out of the shadows and help Bella Real and Commissioner Gordon rebuild the city. I have two more directions that this could be taken in. One direction is Mr. Freeze and Scarecrow as the villains, where we see Batman/Bruce Wayne fight his demons and try to save people from getting literally frozen to death. Or we could see a Pattinson versus Joker storyline in which Joker does Joker things. Another way that they could go is casting Oscar Isaac as a live-action Harvey Dent/Two-Face. There is so much potential in this new Batman universe. Another step in this universe is the TV shows. In the Gotham PD TV show, we'll probably see Gordon transition from Lieutenant to Commissioner. And then Arkham Asylum series / the horror movie. That's probably where we'll see more villains, including Barry Keoghan's Joker. Overall, I'm so excited to see what happens next in the following movies. Final thoughts. I think this was a very good movie. I think The Dark Knight is still better though, but if you remember, Dark Knight was the second film in the trilogy. Batman Begins was the first, but it was still really good. Begins was a 83% Rotten Tomatoes, and this Batman was 80% Rotten Tomatoes. The reason that they are lower in Rotten Tomatoes is because they have to explore the backstory of the world before they build off of it. In total, I think that this film was a great first movie. The acting, the directing, it was stellar, and Matt Reeves did an amazing job. The Riddler gave me real Dark Knight Joker vibes, and the first scene is a literal horror scene. I love how this Batman is more grounded, as if he is like an actual superhero in real life. It's more plausible in this movie than it was in Dark Knight. So, the letter grade. I'm going to give this an A. I think that this movie was a very good movie, but I'm not going to give it an A+ yet, just because that's for like the upper echelon of movies. And I think this movie has to improve on a lot more. But it was a very good... I would give it like a... It would be in the middle of A+ and A, for sure. I really liked it. So guys, thanks for watching. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys later. You're told I'll be a harder temptation.